Hey everyone, welcome back again. This is the third video in this series, and today we will be continuing from where we stopped the other video, which was recorded. What we're doing today, quickly. First, we will hook up an agent on Caldera. We'll see how we can actually deploy the agent. Or just to create the file, then shoot it over to the machine. Again, there's several ways you can actually deliver this. If it's a proper writing engagement in the past, would usually leverage drive-by download or maybe stuff like an email phishing. Did had a payload that actually would get in the user's inbox, they click on it and it calls back to my Caldera deployment. Again, it was weaponized specifically to bypass detection in the Windows environment. That would be the MD with even a P2E5 license. Worked for a while but stopped. But I'm still developing something else. We'll be glad to share once it's ready. But for now, I'll just show you what it looks like to out of the box grab something, deploy on the Windows machine, have that hooked up, then trigger like a basic operation, run a few abilities. Then second phase of today's recording, we'll get in Vectr, we'll create an assessment from scratch. Again, the other day we were able to use an already established template, but today we'll create from scratch just to show you what it looks like. Then the third, which I think I might be tempted to leave until tomorrow. I did mention that there is an integration that can fetch the assessment in Vectr and shoot it over to Caldera, create an ability in Caldera, create an adversary in Caldera, run an operation. Yes, it is present, and I'll be glad to actually showcase how we can leverage this. You can see me pointing to my Caldera and my Vectr deployment here. Then we've got the script that would take care of all that. I'm going to walk you through this maybe tomorrow. I'm just going to keep this tomorrow so I don't end up wasting a lot of time. Long recording today. It's a pretty slick one, and be glad to share. You can see the usage here. We'll show you how to also use it, manually trigger it. Again, this can be done automatically by either cron job or whatever you want to use to automate that process, as long as there's connectivity to ready config and also fetch. We'll be specifying our Vectr API key and Caldera key here. Again, best practice. If this is a production environment, you'd have this something like an Azure Key Vault or maybe a secret manager for AWS better put, so you can actually configure the scripts to fetch those configs from the environment. And if you go into, I'm digressing a bit, I know. If you go into the script, you would see there is a session for config where it's fetching all the config. Here, you can fetch the config. Then in the case if this config, maybe you want to fetch those key vaults credentials, there's also a definition to fetch them here, but again, we're not using that for now, or just a function to do that. Great, enough with this. This is not going to be for today, just like an appetizer, but let's get back into what we're doing today. So for today, first we would create an agent, hook up the agent to the Windows machine, then try to run one or two basic operation, maybe manual command execution, just to see what that looks like. Then we would go over to Vectr. We would create a campaign based on a threat intel supply data for a known threat actor. Stick around, you're gonna love this content. We'll be seeing some cool stuff. Let's get with the first task. Under agent configuration, we can actually set these configs like I mentioned. It makes sense to have this a bit slick. In my case, I know the Windows machine based on my initial recon and all the stuff. They don't use Splunk, so I'll just call this like a notepad. That should be native to Windows environment, and I think I'm good with that. I'm going to save this. Then I'll go over to the agent. I'll deploy. I've got three options here. Again, I can either do the Python agent for HTML. That would be, I think, for Mac and Linux only. For Windows, I can use the Golang. I did mention that there is a modification done by a colleague of mine for the default Golang, which will be able to bypass AV, not EDR, AV, but it's cool stuff. At least you can get it running. If you know AV is what they have in the environment, you'll be able to bypass AV. You'll be able to have your agent persistent on the target machine. So let's go deploy one on Windows. We want to be sure it's pointing to our Caldera server, as you saw in the first recording for the config. Once this is okay, we can copy this. Again, this is a partial command which can be converted to like maybe a batch script or stuff based on how you want to send this over to your target machine. In my case, in the past, previously, Python is pretty fun. Wrap this in around Python, shoot it over to like the email, they get it, they click on it, I get a call back to my Caldera server. But I'm going to leave you to play with your fantasies there. So I'm going to close this. I don't have any agent here at the moment, so I'll connect to our target machine. I will assume we already have initial access by proxy or whatever. So this is my Windows machine. If I paste that here, oh my bad, you would see, great, this is the command. Now I'm going to copy this from this and run it on a PowerShell that is already open. So I'm just going to look for PowerShell and I can paste this here. So this is going to run on the machine. Once it's all good, if it didn't pop out like a warning for maybe on this machine, by the way, I've got McAfee and I've also got Windows Defender. Like it's a Windows 11 machine, so out of the box. So let's see if they're going to cry out. Oh, they didn't cry out. Fun stuff. Okay, let's go back and see. Great, we'll call a live agents and you see it's trusted. Fun fact, privilege is elevated, and that's because I'm running this thing on an administrator PowerShell. Again, an approach would be like running it on a normal PowerShell, then elevate privilege. I can show you that I can actually run it on a normal PowerShell. I don't have to be an admin. I'm just going to start PowerShell again. Another once I'll start another notepad process again, you'll see it popped up notepad, which is already open here because again the process I'm starting is notepad, right? So you can see notepad everywhere. Okay, great. So I'm going to run this on normal. This is it here. I'll paste this. Normal PowerShell. I will get another agent callback to Caldera, which is basically going to be like a normal, not elevated. I just want to show the difference. Something happens. Can I be access the file because it's been used? Oh, great. So too bad for us. We could probably name this to something else. Again, let's play around a bit. I'm going to go in here and oh, it did call back. Interesting. Okay, it called back. I guess it forcefully created another process, which is actually normal user now process. Again, we would have two notepad processes running on that Windows machine. If we take a look at the processes, you would see one of them running as elevated user, the other one as a normal user notepad process. Great stuff. Now, another fun stuff is you would see if I click on this agent, I can see the details. Most important part of this for me is this status, because if it's dead or if it's untrusted, it can be alive untrusted. It's hard to pretty run stuff on it because it's not trusted. So you want to be sure it's alive and trusted. If it's alive and trusted, you're good to go. You can pretty much see that this machine is owned by me. So this is my Blazely classic name over there everywhere. Great. We can also see it's running under C user public. Again, default notepad does not run from this directory. Trust me when I say that. Okay, so but we're running notepad from this directory. Who cares? Great. I'm going to close this. I can also review the normal user process. You would see it's the same thing. Again, Caldera uses this thing called PAR, which is what you're going to be leveraging on our automation. I'll show you that when we get to that phase. So the PAR is used to identify the agent specifically. So we know the agent's PAR for this is actually this. If you look at the value for the other agents, the PAR differs. I think this is some random value created as an ID and tagged to that agent. Great. Now we've got an agent hooked up. What can we do? We can run an operation. Again, that will be like the next thing to do, but there are a bunch of settings you can do here before an operation. I'm not going to delve into that. Again, I'm just showing you the capability. You can play with this stuff. There is an awesome documentation, but on my own, there's been a lot of work done on this. So that's why I'll be showcasing some of the things that I've done to be able to leverage Caldera to be more like not just what it is out of the box, but a bit of automated execution framework for threats. So let's go over to operations. Now there are no operations. So if we create a new one, if I click on create new one, I'm just going to give it a name. I'll give it a name tests. Now you would see the adversary. We've got the options to select any of the inbuilt adversary, but I want to show you something. So I'm not going to select any of this. I'm just going to leave no adversary. Okay, great. Then leave the fact source as basic. Again, we've got option exfil option, but I'll go for basic. Then for the group, again, the agents that were hooked up, let me just close this and go back. If you see the group, they all belong to the red group, because when I was deploying this, I deployed as red. You can as well deploy an agent as blue, just to show you that if I click on this, um, give me a second, I can deploy this agent as a blue agent, which would be more from a defensive perspective, trying to measure detection capability around the whatever tool, either EDR or AV, is on that machine. You can use that option, but for us, we're offensive, so we're using the red. Okay, let's go back to operation. Let's create that new operation again. We'll give it a name, tests. We would not select an adversary. There are a bunch of adversaries, remember. We would select red, so we can only target the red. For the planner, we'll stick to Atomic. We already know Atomic is flexible, built with a lot of capabilities as well. Been working on something else outside the Atomic, which would be for like batch, as well as I'm working on something on buckets. But I may show that case in the future, probably maybe a year from now, who knows. The obfuscator, we would not obfuscate. We don't care again. We already have access. We just run our commands on that machine, leave it in plain text. Another fun fact here, you can run autonomous, or you can require manual approval. If you require manual approval for each stage, or if each test case or each ability that will be run, it will require approval from you. It means you'd have to review the command. If you're fine with it, then you can actually pass it to run. I usually do that in cases where I'm not certain as to what the command will look like. If I need to maybe fine tune or clean up, or maybe add a few more stuff to evade detection for that command, I can require manual approval. So for each command that will be executed, I'll be able as an operator to review it, then validate if it's good to go based on the target objective for that command that I'll be executing. For parsers, we've got, you can use default parser, we can require manual approval, but for us, we're just going to run autonomous in this case. We can set jitters. Again, if you don't know what this is, fun stuff that helps you to manage kind of like a delay back and forth between the command and control center, in our case Caldera here, and the target machine which we've hooked up, which is our Windows in this case. So I'm going to start this. If I start this, you would see it's running. There are no ability at the moment defined. So what we're going to be doing here, like I mentioned, I chose manual for a reason. I want to manually target based on the commands I want to run. So if I select manual, I've got this option to do manual command, or even a potential link. Again, we'll touch on maybe one of these and if several of those. Let me go back to the manual command. If I select this, now flexibility. I know I've got two agents hooked up, so you can see I can target any of these agents. Again, I can always fall back to the agent and see which one has the elevated. So if I want to run specific commands that require elevation, I can target that command to this. Now, this is why I would do manual, because if I'm doing autonomous running, it's just going to pick any of the agents or runs on both of them. I don't think that's scaled in a normal environment. So I want to be very targeted at my approach towards what I'm executing. So going back to the operation, I will select manual. I will target let's start with any of them. Let's just quickly look at them. The SO is the normal user. So I'm going to go for the normal user one for now. And I will be using an executor PowerShell. Again, we can use CMD. Let's just show what that looks like. If I run warm iron this thing, add that command, it's going to communicate to the target and execute that command on a CMD. Now you won't see a CMD process started on this machine. Again, you're not supposed to see that, because remember, everything we're running is being proxied through Notepad process. If I have something like what's it called again, this hacker tool installed here, I can actually review the process of Notepad. You will see Notepad running, executing some other process for like cmd.exe. Maybe I can actually showcase that. What's that tool? Give me a second. Let me look for that tool and just download it on the machine. Okay, so I did install Process Hacker on the Windows machine. I just want to show us something, like I was explaining. So if I go into that particular PowerShell process, I would see PowerShell con host. There is Notepad running underneath that. Again, that's a very funny behavior, right? That shouldn't be the case. It's Notepad running here. In fact, there are two instances of those. Then we can as well see kernels. Again, if I go back to my Caldera, I ran this command, it returned an output for me. This is the user. I can as well import stuff or load stuff and do some very malicious stuff. But just to show you that you won't see Notepad CMD pop up for that execution. It's tied to this particular process. Again, I can actually drill into this process. This is process hacker, review detail into it, or be able to see exactly what is happening. I can even create a dump of this process for an analysis, offline analysis, which is usually would be the case. Should there be a suspicion that there's been a compromise on this particular machine, which is actually the case here. We can see that happening here. I'm just going to put this in the background. Going back to Caldera, let's try another one. This time around, let's use the elevated one. I'm going to use PowerShell. Let's do something like maybe just a native one. IP config, just easy, just to show that that execution works fine. Okay, while that is running, I'm going to quickly bring up this time around. Let's do a potential link. So for potential link, I'm targeting this agent. I can as well target anyone. I know this is the elevated one. I'm using PowerShell. I can select a specific tactic. So let's say we want to do stuff like persistence. Let's look for credential dumping if we can. Now I'm going to add this potential link. This second execution failed. I'm not sure why. Let's see the error. Okay, error starting the process. Great. So I'm sure PowerShell did not complete successfully. I can actually try that again. Give me a second. Let's see. Do we have? Did I run ifconfig? Ipconfig. Okay, ipconfig should go. Maybe I should do something like a PowerShell. I'm going to run this on the PowerShell. Give me a second. Let's cancel this. Let's run another one. I want to try that again. I'm going to do that on an executor PowerShell. Let's do something like yeah, this should work. I'm not sure why it didn't work. I'm just going to try it again. Let's add a potential link this time around. We're going to use PowerShell as an executor. Let's go for persistence, credential dumping. Then let's add this. Okay, that should take a while to come up. This is failing. I'm not sure why. Let me just try that again. Give me a second. Persistence. Why isn't this zero available link? Oh, okay, there are no available link for that. Let's see. Privilege escalation. All techniques. I'm just gonna check. No, let's go back to collection. That collection PowerShell. What do we have in this? Okay, this is like a PowerShell command. What is it collecting? We always best practice to review before you add, but in our case, I'm just going to add that. See if that's going to execute without error on this agent that we're targeting. I'm going to try another one on the other agent just to be sure both agents are still alive. Okay, let's go back to operation. We're still building our operation card. We will add a potential link. Let's do something basic. We'll target this other agent. Let's do a PowerShell. I'm gonna see sleep for 1 minute. ADFS, some fun stuff. MZ bypass. I don't really need to do that now. And let's look up a DNS record, account discovery. That's a classic one. If this machine belongs to a domain, the link fact in order to run properly. Okay, select. We need to add like a domain name. Okay. There is not domain on that machine, so let's just try something else. I'm gonna go back. I just want to show what that looks like. Admin account manipulates. Can we try this? What's it going to try to do? Let's see. Random minimum, maximum. Get random. Okay, generate random value. Add right host. Okay, adding this to group administrator. Okay, I doubt if this is gonna work, but let's try it anyways. This one failed still. Let's see. Oh, okay, so maybe something is wrong with the elevated shell. I see it's not being able to start PowerShell. I'm gonna try something on the elevated machine with, but this one failed also. Are they still alive? Still alive. Let's try a basic one. I want to be sure this thing is working fine. I'm trying to run this command. I just can copy this manual. Give me a second. PowerShell. Again, something basic just to verify it's running. If it's running, then I'm going to. Oh, so you see, it's not able to run anymore. Something is wrong. Maybe it's broken or probably Defender kicked in. I'm gonna refresh this. They still seem alive. Sometimes this happen, maybe networking or something like that. But would make sense to look at that in detail. Let's go back to our operation. Start a new one. Let's target this agent and let's run. If this agent is still alive. If this one is alive, we can actually use this one. Um, okay, I'm going to, while it's doing its thing, I'll just target it again. Oh no, oh no. I thought I targeted the other agent. Let's see, why is it changing? I want to go for this. I'm noticing something weird, by the way. The command, then it goes to this. Okay, great. Let me see if I can actually take out one of these guys. I'm going to kill this agent. And I'm going to wait for it to die. Once it's dead, I should have this. It's still trusted, it's pending killing though. Let's go back to the operation. And let's give that a shot again. I'm not sure why it's selecting the other agent as the default one to run on. See if it's going to behave fine now. It's still not behaving fine. Okay, I will wait for that agent to die. If it's dead, I can actually remove it. Huh. Let me kill all agents. Give me a second. Remove all agents. Okay, add a new agent. Probably something went wrong somewhere. I'm not sure what that is. I do not have to. I can still leverage the same here. Let's see if that stuff calls back. Okay, it's calling back. That should be the normal user. Okay. Let's see. So we have notepads popped up. Okay, great. I see two of them now. Let's go try the operation this time around. See if all looks good. I will add a manual command. What are the agent IDs? Oh, it's still targeting that old agent. So what I would do is I'll basically delete this operation and create a new one. Okay, no adversary. I'll target the red group. Then I will just start this. Add a command. Let's go for this guy. See, maybe that operation got corrupted some weird way, which I'm not sure. Everything should be back to normal now. Let's add a potential link for PowerShell. We're targeting these agents. We'll look for something again like account type admin enumeration. Okay, this should be good, but we need to add up like a back admin. We need to add a few things more like requirement here. I just want to use something that I don't have to add a requirement. Something like this should be fine. Okay, so this is running on what agent? The other agent. This one failed, so maybe that agent is not reachable. Let's see this one. No output yet. Yeah, something's definitely wrong. But again, I guess I'll have to maybe restart this server or something. But just to showcase that you can manually create this stuff. Our goal in the long run would be to automate this process so we won't have to be going through this stress of stuff not working manually here. With our automated script, we can just fetch the adversary from the assessment from Vectr and shoot that over to Caldera, create the adversary, start an operation from that adversary, then run the operation itself autonomously. Okay, this thing is delayed a bit. I'm sure if I look at the logs, I would see a bunch of random errors popping up for me. Let me just go check that out. I did not plan that this video would go longer. Let's see. Okay, what do we have? Let's delete this. I'm just gonna look at my logs for a second. Oh, yeah, I said it's a bunch of errors. Good, I have that knob running. I can actually see a bunch of errors. Not good. Did it crash? Something? Hmm. Let's pause the recording and just fix stuff up quickly. Okay, so for some weird reason, I'm not sure why, PowerShell was just acting strange on the machine. So I found a workaround. So what I'm doing at the moment, you can see I'm using CMD as the default executor, and I'm running the same command on CMD. If I need to run like a PowerShell command, just to show you what I did, if you look at this, I'm doing PowerShell.exe-ep execution policy bypass. Then I'm putting like this semicolon, then I'm running the command that I want to execute, the partial executor, and that runs fine. This is a workaround just in case you encounter this challenge that I'm actually encountering with the executor PowerShell. But I'm definitely going to look into why that I saw some errors on the log. It's what looking into or investigating so you can understand what exactly went wrong. Okay, so just to show that that works correctly, I'm going to try it one more time again, manual. This time around, I'm going to use CMD. I'm going to do stuff like PowerShell exe minus execution policy. I'm just doing that for normal reference. Then I'm going to run this get process command to get all the notepad processes running on that machine. Let's add this command and see what the outcome looks like for us. Okay, so we can see the output, the command that was executed. Again, we're getting process for notepad, and the output we can see the result of that command showing us the handle, that's process ID, then also the process name, which is notepad currently running on the machine. Okay, enough with this stuff. Again, I just wanted to showcase how to pretty much start this now. If we assume that we're done with this, we can actually review by clicking on this. We can see a bunch of details about what happened, the commands that were executed, and the success rates. But beyond this, we can also see like an operation detail here, showing us the fact source that are gathered and other stuff that have been related to the operation. Something very important to note, there is like a fact source here. We can as well see facts that have been collected based on the basic we used at the start. Okay, a few things have actually been collected from the Windows machine, what looking into as well. Then beyond that, on the objectives, we can as well see the default objective which we're using. Also, there's also something else that is worth mentioning here. I think that was going to be on that. Just give me a second. I'll look for that. The objectives. Sometimes if you're exfiltrating data, you'll be able to find those exfils here. Contacts, you can find contacts here again. Currently, we can download reports for HTTP. We can as well, give me a second. Planners, we're currently using Atomic, so that's nothing really interesting going on there. um, settings. We saw settings the other day. Objectives, we looked at objectives. Okay, great. So if we go back to operations, again, we can actually download operation reports if we want to, because there's a report for this operation. Assuming we're done with this operation, I can actually stop it. Then I'll be able to see a report for all these that I've been able to run by clicking on download reports. I can actually include the agent output if I want to. In my case, I can actually fetch these as event logs as well, or just a full report. So I'm going to select full reports. Then I'm going to download this. We'll open this up. Again, this is the JSON representation of it. I can as well have this on like a normal PDF file, which allows me to do that as well. But again, that's going to be for you to go play around with on your own. Great. Now, this is all I want to showcase here. We can as well download the graph for this operation if necessary. You should be able to see that SVG graph. I wish I can open it on Chrome. I'm not sure, but we'll leave that. Okay, it didn't open it, didn't load it. Too bad. Okay, so that's all I want to showcase initially for this. Again, we're going to go into more details when we have that automation part done, seeing how we can leverage the automation to actually automatically create this stuff without manually trying to interact with this dashboard here. Back to Vectr, the final part of this recording will be just to showcase how to create from scratch. So again, we can either use any of these templates which they have, or we can just customize from ground. Now if we're doing that, we're going to have to do a few more data supply. So for instance, we'll call this that should be a good name. We'll call this assessment to test future automation. We can select templates, but like I mentioned, I don't want to use any template that is already here. I want to use more like a Thread supplied template for a known thread actor. So I'm not going to select anything there. Exercise date, I can set a target date. I'm going to extend this to not sure when I'm going to be recording that video. So I'm just going to put this like 27th. Advanced option, we have more advanced option here, more like the attack life cycle. I can leave this as default, or I can use my tactics. Again, depends. You've got the unified kill chain. You've also got the MIDA tactics as well. I'm just going to leave that as default. Organization, very important, very, very important. Again, we created an organization. We call this YouTube. So we're going to select that YouTube organization. That's what we want to use here. Mind you, note that organization, because again, on the automation, if you check the config, you would need to supply that here. Very, very important for this to work. So I'm just going to set this on the fly. Okay, that's what we gave it, and that should be good. Let's go back here. Now, for the campaigns, we can select any of these pre-defined ones, which comes predefined. But remember, I did mention that we want to build this on our own. So I'm not going to select any of these. I'm going to create this. So if I click the create button, it's going to create that automation test campaign, showing me brief details, but there is nothing in there. So the status is not performed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into that. Then we'll try to create the campaigns within this assessment. Again, the campaigns for us depends. You can just create test cases on the fly here, or we can create one campaign, then put all our test cases in there. Again, organizations, keep in mind, YouTube is what we're using for our automation to work. Okay, we would call this campaign, what APT should we emulate here? Let's look for one random. Okay, so to make this easy for ourselves, based on thread intel, I've been able to collect data for a particular thread actor. So this is going to be, and Brian, I'm sure if you have been following the thread landscape, you probably would know they were pretty big recently. So we have thread intel supplied based on the attack pattern. We will see the techniques that this ties to. So what we want to do is emulate this on an environment to see if we've got detection capability to catch a threat actor like this should they go after our environment. Now this threat intel could be valid, could be lacking a few details, but it's a face of value. We have intel that can help us understand if we can catch these guys on an environment. So let's try to build based on this intel. We're going to be leveraging this. So I'm going to go over to my other machine in a second. Where's my vector server? I'm just going to grab this. Or I don't have to grab this. I can actually pull up my vector dashboard. Then we can use it from there. So we're going to be working inside a site today. All right, so we will give this a name. Again, the name for this, we'll call it Empiring. We can select, but in our case, we're not selecting, remember? Okay, we'll call this okay, organization YouTube. We can pick an icon for this. We're just going to look for anything random. Maybe something like this should be good. Okay, great. Now we will save this. We will have that here, but currently progress is 0, nothing is in. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this up, then we'll add the test cases. So quickly we will create some test cases here. So currently there is nothing. If I click on this drop down, I can see either I'm importing from a template. Again, mind you, we could have a template, right? Like a JSON template. We can just fetch that in. If your thread intel is actually generating JSONs, you can export that right in here and just load them up without hassle. But in our case, we'll try to see if we can actually build from scratch, just so you see how that stuff works. So the first test case here would give it a name, Windows Command Shell. Mind you, would make sense to leverage oh my bad, thought I could copy like that. Okay, so objectives, usually what I do is I love to leverage Mither for this, because I know I won't have to reinvent the wheel. They already have extensive documentation for this. All I need to do is grab this technique, sub technique, and go over here. I can search. Oh, again, my bad. I thought I was actually copying, so I'm gonna right click copy. Maybe that's gonna work this time around for me. Okay, great. So we'll go over this. We would see description here. The Windows command shell is primarily command. Okay. Leverage semi to execute various command use. Okay, I can just grab this statement again. In our case, what we try to do is leverage ChatGPT to have a good summary for that particular technique ID. Then we can just have that populated description panel. Now, the very critical thing that needs to be there for the automation to work when we get to trigger this would be we don't really need the phase. Again, from Mither, we can tell what phase this is. We can already see the phase in this context in Vectr. I forgot to mention the mapping. The phase would be the technique, the tactic, then the technique is the technique. So the phase here, we just go over here, is execution. We can select execution from the drop down here. I'm quite fast. Then the technique ID. Again, to make it easy, if I copy this, I think I still have it in my, I'm not sure. I'm just going to copy that again. I can just go over here and I paste that here. It's going to show me exactly what I'm looking for, and I can select it. Now, I do not need anything on the operator's guidance because automation will use the atomics mapped in Caldera to get the command for me, which is the operator's guidance. Operator's guidance is simply the command. And once that is good to go, I can start this. In my case, I can set a target since I already know like the Windows machine that I'm going after. Again, it's there. I can check the IP address. I think I ran something to get the IP address. Let's go look for it in our Caldera. Let's see, it's this one. Yeah, so we can grab the IP address, which is this. I hope that copied fine. We can go over here. We can add a new one. So we'll call this Windows targets. The platform is Windows. The description, just something fun. Okay, now I can put an IP address for this target here if I want to, again, but I'm just fine with this. I can save that. I select this as my target. Now you see I've got a Windows target there. or I can still edit this if I want to. Again, it makes sense to have something that is easy to interpret. Let me see. Oh, it's not gonna let me edit it. Oh, too bad. Okay, I can just create another one, maybe point the IP address and stuff like that. Now, once I'm done with that, I can start this thing and I can write this out. Again, you see my first coming in here. Great, Windows Command Shell. I will add another one. I can clone that one and just leverage that, but to make it easy for myself, I'm just going to add another one. So the next one is registry key, startup folder. I'll copy this. Okay, go over here. This video is going to be very long. My bad, guys. Okay, for description, again, all I have to do is I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I just have to copy this subtechnique ID, copy, go over to Myther and search that out. I'm going to be able to see, but the description, the tactic is persistence, privilege escalation, any of those. So I can look for a clean cut like this, grab this, go over here, I paste this here, then the technique ID. Technique ID is what is referenced in Myther. We call this boot or log on auto start run registry key starter folder. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to just search for that here. Again, sometimes you'd have this issue where you're not seeing it, but if I clean up the white spaces, it should pop up. Now the phase, based on discretion, again, this is where operator's guidance come in. Do you want to select persistence or privilege escalation? Depending on the particular point in the attack chain you're executing this. For me, I would rather call this like a persistence because I'm seeing registry keys are being modified here. So I'm just going to go over here. I'll put this under persistence and I can start this, select the targets, which would be the Windows targets, which we just created. And I'm good to go. I'm going to save this. I've got the second one. You see it's already building like the mind map for me to show me that attack pattern. Let's add maybe one or two more. If I'm not going to get this video way too long, I'm going to pause it, have them added and continue the video just to show what it looks like. So I just finished the mapping. So we've got all these and by completely mapping them to what it looks like in Myther. A second. We should see something that looks like this. So you would see the attack map for Emprint, credential access, collection, persistence, discover impact, command control, execution, exfiltration, defense evasion. Now, it doesn't mean it has to go in this flow. Again, don't forget this is a threat actor. You cannot predict how they're going to start or where they're going to start from, but we do have coverage based on the threat intel supply techniques for this known threat actor. We can then use this execution planner which we just generated in Vectr to plan an actual assessment which will be conducted on Caldera, which is the executor itself. So if you look into this, we've done all the mappings. We have them in the phases, the technique, and the test case. Remember, on Caldera, our interest would be the technique, the test case transforms into an ability. So if the ability is not already in Caldera, a new one will be created with the automation. If it's there, it's just going to fetch that one. Then it's going to read the technique ID, check in Caldera for the execution, which would be the commands. Again, what that means or translates into is if I go back here and I go into like an ability, I'm going to pick one of them, for instance, this ADFS stuff. You would see that there are commands and cleanups. So our automation should be able to read these commands and read the cleanup, then take this ability if it's present. If it's not present, create one. If it's present, take it and wrap it into an adversary, which will be called Empryan in our case. Currently, just to show you, we do not have that adversary here. So, but once we're done, you're going to see that adversary comes up here because the automation will bring it in for us. Then we can start an operation using that adversary on our hooked up agent, which is still alive. Okay, I'm going to have to stop this recording here. It's been a long one, but in summary, we've been able to cover how to hook up an agent on Caldera, how to create from scratch an assessment in Vectr. Then the next phase of things we'll be looking at is around the script. Again, I've told you about it. We'll be cleaning up a few things, still have a few things to clean up on the script. Once it's done, we'll be able to use the script to connect to our Caldera, fetch that particular assessment, which will be for NPM we just created, and translate it into an adversary in Caldera. We can then use the automation to start it. I'm going to walk you through every bit of what this is going to be doing in terms of the functions that are defined in this. Will be pretty easy. On the next recording, I'll cover this, and I hope you will be sticking around till then. Well, anyways, thanks for your time. Thanks for your patience. I know it's been a long one. They spent some time trying to debug. I'm not going to cut that or edit this video. It's part of the whole thing. I hope you love the content. If you do, please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the fourth one. The fourth one would most likely be the last one, or maybe just one more. The fourth one, we're going to have the automation trigger. We're going to see what it looks like. Then we're going to review the outcome of the automation. Thank you for your time. Have a great day and see you in the next one. Peace. Bye.